Remarkably, Will Hardy has done it again. And we're talking about it next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Today, we're going to talk about how Will Hardy has remarkably put this team back together, and it's playing well. Wins, maybe not, but sure playing good basketball, and we'll talk about it coming up here on Locked on Jazz. Vast improvement in so many areas with a depleted rotation of players. What a week for Taylor Hendricks and Keyonte George, or should I say, what a week for Keyonte George and Taylor Hendricks, whichever way you want to talk about it. We'll talk about that. And where has the offense gone in the NBA? Something has changed. Some edict went out, and the game is different than it was before. Plus, we'll look at trends Monday as well. It's all coming up on today's edition of Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Jazz and Jazz NBA insider. Thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free. We're available on all podcasting apps. We're also on YouTube. Thumbs ups are greatly appreciated. Super fun to do a show from home, by the way. I just realized that. When my thumb doesn't disappear because of the background. So thank you very much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen each and every day. Thanks a ton. Greatly appreciate it. All right. By the way, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. Take $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So we're not winning games. And I don't think we're going to win a lot of games the rest of the way, if I'm really honest about it. I think there are we're 5.5 games out of the playoff picture. I think that ship has sailed. We play Washington and Chicago in the next 2 nights. I think we should be favored on both those. I'll check the FanDuel Sportsbook. But I think we would be favored tonight, even without Lauri Markkanen. Maybe not. Yeah, we're a 6-point favorite, even without Lauri Markkanen. I think we'll be favored against Chicago. And then I think we're favored 1 or 2 more times the rest of the season. And because of the way the West is, everyone's playing every night. In the past, you've won some games late in the year because teams are resting. Denver took last month off last year. But when the top 4 teams of the Western Conference are separated by 2.5 games, teams 4 through 8 are separated, or 5 through 8 are separated by 2 games. Teams 5 through 10 are separated by anything actually more than 2 or 3 gets a little much. But teams 6 through 10 are separated by 2.5 games. Then I really think you're not going to see. March is going to be madness. Yes. And we play Cleveland, Clippers, Warriors, Denver, Houston, Clippers, Warriors. Like, okay, Houston is the one. And frankly, by that point, we're all playing for positioning, and Houston doesn't care. Draft positioning, I speak of. So I don't think we have a lot of wins left. What I do think I've seen already is Will Hardy trying to formulate what this team's going to be, how it's going to play, and their performances against Orlando and Miami were both terrific. I mean, it was that first week. Miami was kind of wild because the spread was 7.5 Orlando, but basically we cover both, which tells you something. And we're dreadful in Atlanta, and you go back and watch that, and I've talked about it. John Collins just was so out of sorts, and Jordan Clarkson wasn't very good, and it just seemed like it was too much playing against Quinn, and playing back at home. But if you got to go past that, it's been a bunch of signs. So one, the offense really struggled since the trade deadline. When we got rid of a Linux ball movement and Fontecchio, we suddenly went from an average to above average offensive team to below average. All of a sudden against Miami, we were against a very, very good, tough defensive team. We were really good offensively. And And because we took care of the ball and the offensive rebounding was great and went to the free throw line and attacked and just much better offensive performance. Now, that was without Jordan. We'll have to see what we can do without Lowry. And not having Jordan's inefficiency might have helped a little bit there, frankly. But I think that you just saw great growth. On the defensive side, that did not turn out to be a very good defensive game because of the fact that by the end of the night, they did a lot of their fourth quarter scoring, and that's a veteran team that kind of knows how to do that. But I thought overall, on what was a super fun Saturday night in Miami, I thought the Jazz defense looked like it was playing just so much better than it has been. And we've seen that now pretty consistently. And again, the only, Lowry was battling an injury, which he's out with. But the Jazz first quarter was a 120 defensively, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. It's not like it's 121. Like they were fine. They had a bad third quarter defensively, and they had a bad fourth quarter defensively statistically. But I really thought and then you go look back like, okay, Orlando and Atlanta, they actually were average defensive teams. San Antonio game, they were fabulous defensively. Charlotte, they were an average defensive team, which is really when they came out of the All-Star break, Will Hardy said, hey, we've got to find a way to be a better defensive team. And that's where the focus has been in the last 5 games. And I think we've seen it. It's kind of great. So I give Will a lot of credit. I don't know that you're going to see it in wins and losses. And the sad thing about that is that, frankly, every time somebody plays us or we play every game, there's a graphic that goes below Will Hardy's name. That's his record. And his record's going to be ugly 2 years into his career after the final stretch here, because I just don't see a lot of W's coming our way. But I think we're seeing Will put this team together again in another iteration. And, this isn't like we don't want to write home about it, but 22nd league defensively over the last 5 games, which is a lot better than the 30th we were in the 20 games prior. And that's been a huge area of focus. So I think we're seeing that when Will puts the focus somewhere, he's able to make the adjustments. He's able to improve the team. And I think I can't even tell you how important that is to the well-being of this franchise. So I get it. It's no fun to lose. I'm super impressed by the way we played against Orlando and Miami. And I'm super impressed by just the growth you're seeing out of this team with limited practice time, limited court time, but really just to focus on some fundamental adjustments into the game and how you play. And when they're making those adjustments, they all seem to lead to the same thing. The other area where you got to be super impressed is the week of Keyonte George and the week of Taylor Hendricks. And that's pretty exciting if you're a Jazz fan. So let's touch on those things as we continue here on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Keyonte George, monster night, but also Taylor Hendricks, the one kid who handled the homecoming well. We're touching on those things as we continue here on Locked On Jazz today, as the Jazz play the Wizards tonight, by the way, on a Monday night ball game at Delta Center. Today's show is brought to you in part by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also in Logan. The Chevy lineup of trucks, it's pretty awesome. It's the Silverado, which is the King Poobah truck, making it bigger and more powerful than you can imagine. And then the Colorado is the zippier of the two trucks. And the Chevy truck is just, the Silverado comes in the 1500 and the HD and the 3500 HD. And Chevy is, Americana and trucks. Murdoch is Utah. It's a great combination over at Woods Cross. And then I think the underrated part of the Chevy lineup is that SUV. The Trax is the small one, the Equinox, then the two Blazers, the Trailblazer, and then obviously we know the Tahoe and the Suburban, all over at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross and in Logan. We'd love to give you the VIP experience. So if you're looking for a Chevy right now, make sure you do it with Murdoch, and make sure you email us first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com for you to get set up with Murdoch Chevy over in Woods Cross or in Logan. Today's show is also brought to you by the official sports book of Locked On, and that's our good friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel making moments more. FanDuel's got a great deal for you right now. If you are new to FanDuel, want to get involved for maybe March Madness, want to get involved maybe for the end of the NBA season, if you're a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's right. winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. I was actually so curious and wanted to check this today. It feels as though the Celtics they're so much better than everyone else. So I was wondering, they're plus 210. Nuggets are plus 420. Clippers are plus 500. Bucks are plus 700. And then it drops off the map. Phoenix is the third most likely Western Conference team to win it, really, at plus 1,800. Timberwolves at plus 2,000. Minnesota getting no respect in the betting lines at plus 250. Awards right now, Nikola Jokic is minus 150 to win the MVP. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plus 220, followed by Luka, Rookie of the Year. Victor Wembanyama has jumped ahead of Chet Holmgren, and Rudy Gobert is on his way to Defensive Player of the Year. Victor's actually second in that. And the sixth man, Malik Monk, is ahead of Norman Powell. Coach of the Year, Mark Daigneault, then Chris Finch, then Joe Mazzulla are the things. The conference winner, Eastern Conference winner, Bucks are minus 125. Celtics are minus 125. Bucks are 310. And the Nuggets are plus 190 with the Clippers, Thunder, Suns, Timberwolves. Interesting. That's all at FanDuel right now. And use the promo code or FanDuel.com/locked-on. New customers get $150 in bonus bets. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Tonight, Jazz and the Wizards. As I mentioned, that game will be available for you on Sirius XM. All hometown broadcasts will also be available for you on our local station, KSL Sports Zone. All right, update on draft position because that is becoming important. Here's the situation. We're currently sitting 11th. We need to get to 9th to be safe. Our best, I don't think we can get better than 8th. The jump between 9 and 8, by the way, is the most advantageous move of any spot anywhere in the draft. If you go at 9, you have a 26% chance to get a top 4 pick. And at 7, you have a 32% chance. So that's a 6% difference. That's kind of about as advantageous as it gets. There's really only one other 5 to 4 has that same 6% difference. Also, by the way, I don't know if we can get it. 9 to 8 has a 9% difference. So really the most advantageous thing is get 9 to 8. We could probably get to 8. We cannot get to 7. I'll explain why. Toronto owns the 7th pick right now. It is protected 1 through 6. Scotty Barnes is out. Toronto, I suspect, falls apart here and tries to catch Memphis, who's lost 5 in a row in his 3 games. I don't know if Toronto could do it. Could be, this is going to be a bummer for Toronto. They're 1 through 6 protected in the 7th position right now. They will have a 32% chance of going in the top 4 if they're in this position, but otherwise they're going to lose their pick to the Spurs, who are going to be great because of Victor. So Toronto, there's 0 chance the Jazz catch Toronto. Brooklyn is at 8. They've won 2 in a row, big wins over Atlanta. Their pick is unprotected, going to Houston, no matter what, no incentive to lose. Atlanta is a game behind us in losses, weird way to say it, and they're trying to make the play-in. Houston's pick is going to Oklahoma City. They're also a game. It's protected 1 through 4. It's just not going to happen. So therefore, Houston has no incentive to lose. We're a half game ahead of Houston and Atlanta. I think we can get there easily. That gets us to 9. And then the question is whether or not we can catch Brooklyn while Brooklyn's winning and we're maybe not. Okay? Then we get to 8. And that jump from 9 to 8 is the biggest jump is 9 to 8. Like if we can get that, that's a huge jump. That goes from 17% chance of getting a top 4 pick to 26% chance of getting a top 4 pick. So interesting. All right, let's talk about our kids. What a week for Keyonte George. So when I think of the best on-ball attack defenders in the NBA, I think of Alex Caruso, Jalen Suggs, and Derek White. There's probably some others, but those are the 3 that come to mind to me. Jalen Suggs picked up Keyonte George, 5 feet into the backcourt the other night, pressured him all night. I gave him fits. I thought Keyonte dealt with it better as the night went on. Opening quarter, Keyonte did have 4 assists. He got passive, and then the third quarter, I thought he got much more aggressive. He took 5 shots. He beat his guy. When at some point, you just got to beat him when he's doing that. He took 5 free throws in the fourth quarter of that game. I thought he played a really, really good second half. He finished that night 19 points, 5 of 12 shooting, 7 of 7 from the line, 9 assists. So he's beating his guy, getting in the paint, breaking the defense, and then dishing out. Really a super performance from Keyonte. And then his Miami game is a monster. Like, these are the moments where you say, oh, we have something. Now, scoring as a point guard in the NBA is easier than it's ever been before. And that is the sense that you have the ball in your hands the whole time. But getting 14 threes off in a game is a skill. And I've always believed that the first skill for a great player in this league is the ability to get shots off, honestly. And I think it's just not something that a lot of guys can do, right? The amount of, it's crazy because the NBA is, a different game that's ever been. And it used to be like, if someone shot 14 threes in a game, you would go bananas. It has happened this year. It's happened 92 times, right? Steph's taken over 20 twice. But it's a unique group of players that can go get 14 threes off in a game. You're into it. De'Aaron Fox has done it. Jamal Murray's done it. Trae Young's done it. Steph Curry's done it. On point guards, I think I said Jamal Murray. Like, it's a pretty great group of guys. So that Sam Merrill's doing it all the time for Utah State reference. The first thing is getting 14 threes off is awesome. The second one, 12 of 23, 4 assists last 31 points. He had played 43 minutes. The 5 turnovers late, obviously. I think he turned it over a bunch of times in the third quarter. Again, Miami got into him. But that 2-game sequence from Keyonte is everything that matters right now. Those are against 2 very good defensive teams in Orlando and Miami. Those are against 2 teams that are very well prepared by very good coaches. And we're seeing him put it together. The other one is Keyonte's gone through 3 cycles in this season that I think are important. Actually, maybe even 4. So he opens the year just kind of figuring it out. And then by the 9th game of the year, we already have him in the starting lineup. Well, if we're really honest about that stretch, it was pretty ugly. 16 games as a starter, he shot 34% from the field and 32% from 3. The blessing may have been that he got hurt, because that allowed Will to get him out of the lineup without benching him. And I'm not going to lie to you, on December 13th, when he was playing the Knicks, and I was concerned that he had we'd put too much under him and that it was going to have a negative impact. He then plays the next 20 or so games off the bench, pre the trades. 42% from the field, 35% from 3, 12 points a game, 23. And if you remember, he goes from being like 79th out of 80 in pick and roll offense to about 13th in the league in offense pick and roll wise. So much, much better playing second tier guys and regain some confidence. And then after the trades, Will makes the appropriate move, which is puts him back in the starting lineup. And since then, he's averaging 17 points a game, 6 assists, playing 34 minutes, and shooting 42% from the field and 42% from 3. The 42% from 3 on 8 3-pointers is awesome because it wasn't entirely clear whether he was going to be able to shoot it out of the draft. So that's great. 1.5 free throws attempts, not great. I don't know what happened, but when he started in his first 5 of his first 6 games, he did not go to the line in any of those games. So for him to take 7 against Orlando was awesome. Got to get back to going to the free throw line a little bit. Over 5 assists almost every game is super. Turnovers are going to happen. I'm just not really worried about his turnovers. And he's had good and bad shooting nights. But we're seeing kind of feel the league for 9 games. Start, it's too early. Come back off the bench settled. get a break at All-Star break, come back as the starter, awesome growth. And you're seeing the growth in communication. You're seeing the growth in voice that Will Hardy talks about. You're seeing the growth in three-point shooting. You're seeing the growth in decision-making. And you're seeing the growth, I think, in effort. The Warrior game to me, when was that game? When we lost by 3 to the Warriors right before the break. I thought he played at 33 that night. That's as hard as I've ever seen him play. And I thought he matched that in Orlando and Miami. So that's pretty great. Fired up about that. And now tonight, he goes up against kind of a crafty guard and Tyus Jones, and every night's a test. And then we've talked about the closing schedule for the Jazz. It's really hard. He's going to have a lot of tests the rest of the way. Let's see how he deals with it. But you have to be just ecstatic about what the Jazz got out of the 16th pick of the draft right now. And without, Kobe Buffkin's not doing this in the 15th pick. Grady Dick, the 13th pick, is not doing it. Jet Howard, the 11th pick, is not doing it. Casey Wallace is playing pretty well, but not this amount of minutes. This may turn out to be a really great pick. And Jalen Hood-Schifino, the 11th pick, has only played 100 minutes. Or the 17th pick has only played 100 minutes. So this really may turn out to be a great, great pick by the Jazz. Taylor Hendricks had an equally exciting week for the Jazz as he grows into his role, and we'll touch on that as we continue as the Jazz play the Washington Wizards tonight, 7 o'clock tip-off. Tickets are available for that one at home. Wednesday, we play the Bulls. Tickets available for that as well, so we'd love to have you come out to either of those ball games this week. Jazz season ticket holder, if you are, which I hope you are as a everydayer, remember renewals are up. Make sure you get those in. All right. Taylor Hendricks, what a week for him. Woo! Throw the boy in the middle of the pool or throw him in the middle of the ocean. Wow. Wow. We'll talk about it when we come back here as we continue on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is also brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Get you a first deposit match up to $100. It's demon time. Demons and Goblins on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get your different payouts, and you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks does offer injury insurance, quick withdrawals, easy game plan, enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So get involved now and go with the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Your first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It's Prize Picks. Thank you very much for making Locked On Jazz your first. Thanks very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. Thank you very much. YouTube, thumbs up, please. Thumbs up if you like the way Taylor Hendricks is playing. Thumbs up if you like the way Keyonte George is playing. Do it. Love it. And we have launched the first ever 24/7 sports national sports stream on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. I really think you'll like it. It's an in-depth look at kind of all the big major stories from the local experts without the kind of yelling, honestly, without the yelling and screaming and debating and da-da-da. It's really insightful. It's great. Go check it out on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. Taylor Hendricks opened the week last week guarding Victor Wembanyama. Then he guarded Brandon Miller, fellow rookie. Then he guarded Bogdan Bogdanovic. Okay, so those are 3 pretty dramatically different players. I did that in the wrong order. He guarded Brandon Miller. Then he Victor Wembanyama. Then Bogdan Bogdanovic. Then Paolo Banchero, 23 a game. And then Jimmy Butler. Is he getting the best of them? No. Fine. Is he getting taught something every night? Yeah. Is he showing the natural skills that he might be okay. Uh-huh. Like that's what you're looking for. Is that in 27 minutes a night, when he first started playing before the All-Star break, and we played in Phoenix, and we played the Warriors, he didn't look like he had a clue. Like he was running in. There was a play where Jordan Clarkson came off a curl, and he came off a curl on the other side and literally ran into him. There were plays where the spacing was off. You watch him at shoot around now, he looks like he belongs. You're seeing him gaining his confidence. You're seeing him make plays and be like, oh, I have the skills to do this. And that's what this is all about. 9 points, 8 rebounds, terrific. Box score lines mean limited to me, but at 9 points, 8 rebounds in 27 minutes, it's having a little bit of an impact. 3-point shooting's 30%. I'm not clear to me what kind of 3-point shooter he's going to be. 9 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 7 rebounds, and 13 rebounds in 4 of his 5 starts. Woohoo! That's where the natural skill shows. 2 or 3 offensive rebounds a game. That's where the natural skill shows. So Taylor is being sent to the Wolves, thrown in the deep end of the pool, dropped in the ocean, whatever you want, cliche phrase you want to use. I mean, literally, Will Hardy's just finding the best offensive player on the other team and saying, go guard him. He's going to get Kyle Kuzma tonight. So he's going to go from Jimmy Butler to Kyle Kuzma. We're also seeing a little bit of offensive skill every now and then. There's a hard right-hand drive to the basket, lowered the shoulder, and finished it. There's the offensive rebound putbacks, which are great, which are really the way for him to find his game. He had 4 offensive rebounds the other night against Miami. And he just, most importantly, you can just see it. You can see the athleticism that is why he belongs in the NBA and why he's the 9th pick of the draft. So, I mean, the sum up of my 2 first segments today, and maybe 3 of the show, and I have some NBA notes, but that I'll share with you, and we'll do Trends Monday quickly, is just that, hey, these guys, it's not, if you're getting our value out of wins, yeah, it's going to be a tough stretch for you. If you wake up in the morning we're going to win today and I'm going to feel better about myself because we win today, this is going to be a hard stretch. There are not a lot of wins left. And frankly, let's not BS. It's advantageous for us not to at this point. We're 5 games out of the 10th spot. Getting to 8 in the draft would be mammoth. We'll see if it's mammoth, but statistically, it's a big deal. We go from 9% chance right now of a top 4 pick to 26%. Maybe this isn't a headliner draft where you care about top 4, but also you have the pick. And we talked about this on Friday. If you didn't catch it, why keeping the pick's important. So we are into compete, play hard, get better, respect the game, and let the young guys do. And I think Bryce has been showing signs too. So really, a lot of really positive pieces to me of what I'm seeing and what's taking place. That's exciting. All right. Few notes around the NBA. The NBA went under last night by an average of 12 points per game. The NBA has gone under in 70% of all games since the All-Star break. You think there might have been an edict sent out that something's supposed to change in the league? It's kind of crazy. 70% of all games since the All-Star break. So the offensive explosion is over. I wasn't bothered by it, to be perfectly honest, so I'm not sure I think this is great. There's not an ounce of me that was super excited about the fact that the Clippers-Minnesota game last night was 89-88. The guys are so skilled and so gifted. Sure, we can bring it down a little bit, but we don't need 89-88 again. A few interesting things from B-Ball Index, who do great work. 5 best passers in the game right now. Chris Paul, Peyton Pritchard. Only reason I mention that is because Danny drafted him, so I think it's reference. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyus Jones, who we see tonight, and Tyrese Maxey. And I'm surprised by Maxey because when I watch him, I sometimes think he's not a point guard enough for Philly, so that's cool. 5 best big defenders: Victor, Nick Claxton, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and Walker Kessler. Walker and Lowry both out tonight. And by the way, in the last 8 games, Victor, 25 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks. I mean, it's happening. It's crazy. All right, let's go trends. We do trends Monday, every Monday. We actually did it last week on a Tuesday, but we'll do it on a Monday. Last teams are heating up. And this is why I think this was such a good week. Hottest teams in the NBA for the last 10 games are Boston by a large margin, Minnesota, Milwaukee, maybe Doc's got them clicked in, Miami, Orlando, and Oklahoma City. But Miami and Orlando, right there. Teams that are on the bottom, Washington, who's lost 14 straight we face tonight, Memphis, Utah, Portland, the Knicks, Jalen Brunson got hurt last night, and Brooklyn. So Brooklyn will be an interesting one for us to watch because we need Brooklyn to win. Houston's in there too. We need to win. 5 best offenses in the last 10 games. Boston, Lakers, Thunder, Magic, Orlando. Magic since the trade deadline, so that's interesting. And Orlando, who has not been a good offensive team, is suddenly playing really good offense. Teams that can't score are Memphis, Houston, Portland, Brooklyn, and Detroit. 5 best defenses, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Miami, Boston, Charlotte. That's probably where Doc's biggest influence is, that they're playing normal defense again. Charlotte, that's super interesting since the trade deadline. Worst defense in the last 10 games, Utah, but better as we talked about in the last 5. The Knicks, Washington, Lakers, 76ers, and then the Kings. So those are your trends. That is Locked On Jazz. We now send you over Jazz Wizards tonight. Hope you can stop by. I'll try to remember to have stickers. I was out the last 2 days. I love it when you guys stop by. It's so nice of you. Appreciate it. It is now time to send you to the 24/7, first ever 24/7 national sports channel, Locked On Sports Today. It's also available on Amazon Fire TV.